And Adam Clayton Powell knows it. He knows you can send him to Washington or you can send him to Puerto Rico. And because he knows it, he speaks with a loud voice, like a black man. And when he speaks with a loud voice, like a black man, the white man calls him a racist. Says he sounds too much like a Muslim. Simply because he's trying to tell the white man where it's at.
I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Minister Malcolm, I'd like to...
Well, I could cite one example would be Congressman Dawson, for example, in Chicago. In Chicago, a large number of liberals located in the Hyde Park district have consistently fought Dawson and his betrayals of the Negro, and they've also fought some of the people who represent Dawson on the Chicago City Council.
The only Negro I know who is constantly fought, only Negro politician that I know who is constantly fought by white liberals is Adam Clayton Powell. And they call him a racist because he speaks so bluntly on the race issue. But I'm not, as I said, not too familiar with Dawson and his work.
I would like to ask Mr. X simply, why cannot a Negro infiltrate the political machine and use power politics to his own end?
If he studied the science of politics, he probably would. Most Negroes don't. They become involved politically from an emotional point of view rather than a scientific point of view. You show me a Negro politician, and I'll show you one who's controlled by the white political machine. And if you show me one who isn't controlled by the white political machine, I'll show you one whom the white political machine has labeled as a racist, an extremist. And Adam Powell is one of the best examples of it. Anyone that they endorse who will do what they want him to do, he's all right. But when you become politically independent in this country, the whites immediately label you as a racist. The reason for this is the only way you can become politically independent of the white political machine is to have the support of the black masses. The only way you can get the support of the black masses is to say how they think and how they feel. And when you begin to speak to the black masses, how they feel and think, then the whites call you a racist, because you have to talk in the context of the intense degree of dissatisfaction that exists in the Negro community. Whites don't want to hear this. They want to be told that the problem is being solved. You're not solving the problem for anybody but a few hand-picked Uncle Tom Negroes who benefit from your token integration. And as long as you deal with them, you're going to be adding more powder to a keg that's inside your house that can blow you higher if it explodes than 1,000,000 megaton bombs. But when you get out here and find how the masses of black people really feel, you're too intelligent to act as you act, if you know how they really feel. And the only black man who will tell you exactly how a black man feels is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The rest of them are going to talk to you out the corner of their mouth, try and make friends with you.
Well, if there is danger of race riots in Washington at this time, it isn't because Adam Clayton Powell says so. He might have announced it, but this is, if such danger exists, it has existed before Powell even made the statement. I will give Powell credit for being bold enough to repeat what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been saying for 33 years, and most other Negro leaders are trying to make white people think that they have things so much under control that there's no chance of Negroes getting out of line.
Would you consider Clayton Powell as a leader of black people?
Well, black people send Adam Clayton Powell to Washington, D.C. Adam Clayton Powell is one of the few politicians and black politicians of national stature who has been able to buck a white political machine, the Tammany Hall machine, here in New York City, and still be sent to Washington. Now, one of the reasons that Powell was able to buck the white political machine is because the black people here in Harlem are more intellectually independent then black people anywhere in America, black people in Harlem, can think for themselves. And black people in Harlem think black. Black people in New York, they think black, they walk black, they talk black, they're proud to be black. And therefore, when a white political machine tries to tell black people in New York who to accept as the leader, black people in Harlem don't go for that. So black people in New York send Powell to Washington, D.C., as long as Powell speaks like a black man. And the day that Powell ceases to speak like a black man, you'll find that black people in New York will cease to send black people in New York will cease to send Powell to Washington. So I give you that answer. I'm not saying that Powell is right or Powell is wrong. That's not the question. But Powell does represent black people to the degree that black people support him. But most of these other Negro leaders that you see running around here are nothing but Uncle Toms outright who have no independent voice of their own, and you never hear them open up their mouth until the white man gives them the right to open up their mouth. And then when they open up their mouth, they always take great care not to alienate what they consider to be the white liberal. The white liberal who has given them their position. White liberals gave Bunch his position. Any civic leader that you can name to me, he was given that position by white liberals. And when he speaks, he takes into consideration first his white liberal friend, and he'll say nothing that will alienate that white liberal from him. But when Powell opens up his mouth, Powell doesn't seem to care who likes it or who doesn't like it. And for that reason, you find black people continue to support him.
Can he do this because he is financially or economically independent, or just because he's a brave leader?
He can do it only because black people support him. It wasn't financial independence means nothing in this society. He can do it for the sole reason that black people support him. When black people, and Powell knows that black people in Harlem support him. Powell knows also that when black people cease to support him, his own financial independence will mean nothing. He'll still have to go back to Puerto Rico someplace and settle down on his farm or whatever it is that he's purchased down there and live happily ever after. It's only because he has the support of the black man that he can open up his mouth and talk back to the white man.
I don't think you'll ever have to tell Negroes in New York to buy rifles and shotguns.
Well, what does that answer mean? Does that mean they already have, or it's not necessary?
I think you'll find that the so-called Negro in the city of New York will do whatever, whenever is necessary to defend himself if any kind of violence ever breaks out. It's good for you to know that.
Go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit, will you?
How do you mean?
When you say that you're talking about the Negro in New York.
Well, the so-called Negro in New York probably is more sophisticated and enlightened with the UN here and all these television channels, and he hears what's going on all over the world. He's more enlightened. He's not living in those dark ages where you can get people to turn the other cheek no matter how much they're being brutalized.
You're saying he's different than Negroes elsewhere.
He's more well-informed. The New York Negro is better informed on world affairs and national affairs than any Negro in this country.
His attitudes reflect other Negroes throughout the country?
Well, his attitude catches, it spreads. He sets the attitudes of for other Negroes throughout the country.
Malcolm, if you say he's so well informed in New York, I haven't been there very long, but how do you explain the dereliction in political accomplishments for the Negro here in the New York area where there are so many?
This is the result of the sellout that's done by most of the Negro politicians. I was supposed to speak at the Carver Club on 145th in Amsterdam tonight. And one of the most powerful Negro politicians in this country used his influence to stop my being able to speak at that club. This is an example. Anytime anyone steps forth to try and organize the Negro so that he can take some action that is for the benefit of the community rather than action that's endorsed and for the benefit of the man downtown, then you have some Negroes in the community who call themselves politicians who use their positions to really hold things back rather than make things go forward.
Well, do you think they're working with the white men or what?
Usually they can't hold their position unless they work with the whites. Take Powell, for instance. Anytime Powell speaks out, they call him a racist or an extremist, primarily because he says things that aren't endorsed by the power structure. This doesn't mean he's always right. But it also doesn't mean that he's always wrong.
Well, then you see the Negro is sold out by his own people.
Yes, he is. He was sold out by...
What do you do about that?
Well, we take care of that.
Explain your smile.
Yes. During slavery, you know, you had the house Negro and the field Negro.
Yes.
The house Negro was in the house with the master, and he ate better than the field Negro. He lived better than the field Negro, and he could even speak better than the field Negro. But his job was to keep the field Negro in check.
This was the Uncle Tom.
This was they called him Uncle Tom in those days. Today they call them doctors and lawyers and the right reverend doctor, and they call them Negro leaders. But their job is the same thing today that it was on the plantation. Keep the Negro in check. Keep him nonviolent.
And how do you take care of him?
Sir?
And you said you would take care of him.
Yes, we'll take care of him.
Well, how?
I'll keep that in my head.
Go ahead.
We'll take care of him.
What do you have in mind?
We'll make him take care of himself. What happened to Judas? Judas hung himself.
And with that biblical reference, we're going to have to bring today's program to an end.
Do you think that Adam Clayton Powell's political career has been one of pure political action? He thinks highly of you, and speaks to me highly of you.
Adam Clayton Powell, Adam Clayton Powell's entire political career has to be looked at in the entire context of the American history and the history of the position of the Afro-American or Negro in American history, and then when you take all of these factors combined, you can see where Adam Clayton Powell is a remarkable man and has done a remarkable job in fighting for rights of black people in this country. On the other hand, he probably hasn't done as much as he could or as much as he should, because he is the most independent Negro politician in this country. There's no politician in this country of national stature who is more independent of the political machine as Adam Clayton Powell is.
Well, Dawson was a pure victim of it, of course. Chicago. Congressman Dawson.
Yes, I don't know too much about Dawson, but from what I've heard, he has no independence of action when it comes to the political machine there in Chicago.
But is Adam Clayton Powell's line a line of what you would call mature political action, or has that been frustrated?
In my opinion, mature political action is the type of action that that involves a program of re-education and information that will enable the black people in the black community to see the fruits that they should be receiving from the politicians who are over them, and thereby they are then able to determine whether or not the politician is really fulfilling his function. And if he is not fulfilling his function, they then can set up the machinery to remove him from that position by whatever means necessary. To me, political action involves making the politician who represents us know that he either produces or he is out, and he's out one way or another.
There's only one way to put a politician out ordinarily, is to vote him out.
Well, I think that the black people in this country have reached a point where they should reserve the right to do whatever is necessary to see that they exercise complete control over the politicians in the politics of their own community by whatever means necessary.
Malcolm, what is your opinion as a politician of Adam Clayton Powell?
Well, Adam Clayton Powell probably is the only Negro politician of national stature who is completely independent of any political machine. He's in a more powerful position politically than any other Negro politician, primarily because the Negro in New York is different from Negroes anywhere else in the country, in that they are exposed to such a great deal of news. The United Nations is there. They're more highly sophisticated where politics and international politics are concerned than any other Negroes in the country. Then, and for that reason, it is less. They are less influenced by the propaganda from the daily news media when it's unleashed against another Negro. So
you think that this has all been misleading and misconstrued, and everything that we hear that happens with him in Puerto Rico and Europe. I mean, this is
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that despite all of the negative aspects of Mr. Powell's daily life, that is magnified by the press and projected as his whole image instead of only a part of his image, the Negro is able to look and see this and realize what is being done or the effort that's being made. And they overlook it, so that it keeps Powell, and the best way for Powell to remain in Washington, D.C. is for the white press to continue to attack him. This automatically gets the Negro support.
Can you give me a capsule opinion on some of the following people, if you care to? Adam Clayton Powell. What do you think of him?
Powell is actually the most independent black politician in America. He's in a better position to do more for black people than any other politician.
Is he doing it?
And the reason he's in that position is because he's in an area where people support him. They support him, whereas many other Negro politicians don't get that type of support. People in Harlem are just independent-minded. They would go for a black man whether the machine liked it or not. So Powell is in a tremendous position. And with his position also goes responsibility. And I think he should see his responsibilities with the same clarity that he sees his powerful position.
And you said, including the politics.
Yes.
So what, could you elaborate a little bit?
Yes, when I said that no one can clean up our home but us, and that we will clean it up, including and no one should control it but us, including the politics, what do I mean? I mean exactly that. That the black people, you're thinking of who? Powell? Powell's one of us. No, he's not a member of our organization, but when I say he's one of us, I mean he's one of the family. And no one outside the family can get us to talk about him. If we talk about him, we talk about him within the family. But nobody outside the family can instigate us against Powell. Yes. By controlling it politically, I mean that the politics of the community of Harlem should be controlled by those of us who live in Harlem, not by somebody sitting down in Gracie Mansion. Sir? No, but the Organization of Afro-American Unity intends to get involved in every kind of action that's going on in New York City. We don't intend to let anybody downtown influence us in any way, shape, or form. We want the influence to come from Harlem and from other Harlems around the country. Now, this doesn't mean we're anti-outside of Harlem. This doesn't mean we're anti-Bronx or anti-White Plains or anti-white or anti-German or anything like that. But it means we're pro-Harlem. We're pro-ourselves. We want to start doing something for ourselves. That's all it means. It means that we want to stop begging you for your school. We want you to get out of the way and let us straighten out the schools in Harlem.